Hello and welcome to another Grass Chat, and we are really looking forward to this one. My name is Russ, if you are joining us for the first time to watch this, whenever that day may be. But what I want to say is that my guest tonight has really done it all. He's progressed through the ranks and is now probably at the top of his game and has been for the past few years. And we're going to delve into some of his history and a bit more. I'd like to welcome along the one and only Mr. Dan Mackenzie. Dan, how are you doing tonight?
Hello, I'm good, thank you, Ross. How are you?
Yeah, we're sound, mate. We can't be happier, really. You are joining us on Grasschat's 4th birthday. 4 years ago today we started it, and no better way to actually celebrate that by talking to somebody like yourself. So I hope you're ready to share some history and a bit more.
Yeah, congratulations and thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this. Should be good.
Good. So obviously you are quite known as your family, especially. They've been in the sport for, well, since the black and white days, really. And
Yes.
and you've been involved in every aspect of it as a family. And but this is more focused on you, and we really want to find out a bit more about you and sort of where you came from and hopefully what future plans are, because obviously with the recent announcement that, by the government that it's looking promising at the moment, as long as everybody behaves and follows these relaxed guidelines responsibly, then all being well, in a few months we can have autograss cars back on an autograss track. And I know you were one of the first people to actually post on Facebook with excitement that it could be happening. So I'm sure you are really buzzing to get going again.
Yeah, definitely. From a personal point of view and a business point of view, it'd be really nice to have a full season's racing in whatever form that may be, whether it was a full normal season or a full season of club meetings and big open meetings or whatever. I just want to go racing, really.
Well, of course. I mean, as we say, you've got quite a deep family history within the sport, and we're hopefully going to find out a little bit about that. But I want to go back to sort of your beginning. Despite the part of the world that you actually come from, you grew up, like me, around the absolutely legendary Lincolnshire Showground. What do you remember from that? Because for us, that was actually our family holiday, the fastest man on grass weekend. We never went anywhere else. We didn't travel. And the fastest man on grass, I mean, it was the only time I ever saw like 500 cars at a race meet. So as a kid, for you, what was that like growing up at the showground?
Well, you summed it up, really. That was our annual pilgrimage. We didn't, that had to be the only meeting we stayed over at. It had been Dad and Aaron that was racing Class 3s, and they only really, at the time, to be honest, raced Trent and Sturton. So Sturton probably did 4 or 5 meetings a year. Trent did however many, and they didn't really go. So they probably only did 10 meetings a year or something like that at the time. And the fastest man on grass was the pinnacle of our season, and something to look forward to, really. So it's very special, and it's a shame that they lost the showground. I gutted really for Sandy and Terry about that, but I feel like it's still a special event, really. Like, it still is the fastest man on grass, and to people maybe more so that side of the country than the Midlands, West Midlands, Wales. Someone else commented on a post that I put on when I was fortunate enough to win it, that they still viewed it as the mecca of grass track racing, and for many years it really was. It was the biggest meeting, well probably the biggest meeting, or if not alongside MAP, joint biggest meeting of the year.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah,
definitely agree.
I can remember being a little kid standing in the back of a van with my nan and granddad, and just things like that. It's just Just mad. Yeah, it's good.
Definitely. I mean, I drive past. I don't drive past as much at the minute, but every time we drive past, I can't help but look across and just. And if you Google Map it, you can actually still see part of the outline because obviously they've built a college on top of it. But it's just a magical place every time you pull through the gate. Now, I have to ask this because surely every kid did it and got injured along the way. But did you ever spend your evenings running along the tyre walk? Because that's what people like myself and the Gibbons boys do all the time.
Do you know what? I can't remember. I really can't remember. I've got one of my first memories is being in the pits, probably when I shouldn't have been. And it was Monday afternoon, fastest saloon and special and fastest man runoffs and stuff. I remember just there being loads and loads of reruns. It was a glorious hot day, and just cars coming past me into the rerun lane and stuff, and a lot of action. It had a very special atmosphere about the place.
It did. You when growing up and you started to sort of understand it a bit more, everything built up to those fastest saloon and fastest special races, and I still judge from being in them. The fastest special on grass races are some of the hardest races you'll ever have.
They are, yeah, they are. And knockout racing is so difficult. It's just a lottery, really.
Oh yeah, definitely. And sometimes you can get surprised and unfortunately sometimes embarrassed by a car which may finish in front of you because you should expect. Well, that's the magic of it. And like you say, yes, times have changed and it's at a different place now. But we'll talk about it again later. But the fastest man on grass is still a meeting which holds quite special to me because it's what I grew up around. And it's
me too. Yeah.
You mentioned about obviously your dad and Aaron both in Class 3s and both competitive. I mean, Class 3 was massive in the Lincolnshire League.
It was, yeah, it really was.
I tried to count up how many were in the league in around late 90s, and I think there was getting on for around 40 Class 3s, which was mental.
Yeah.
But did you really ever watch the Class 3? I mean, growing up, obviously you'd have a family interest watching them, but did Class 3 sort of like interest you, excite you as a kid, or was it more Class 7s and specials like today?
This is a good question because I loved watching Class 3s at the showground and at Trent as a kid when we were going there, and I still like watching Class 3 a lot now. Like if Class 3s are on, I'll always be at the fence watching. But for some reason, it never really. I don't know. I can't answer it. It's a good question. It just wasn't really the path that was ever. I never even thought about it. It's a strange one. I don't know. It's a difficult one to answer that.
I suppose the problem maybe was back in those days when it went Class 1, 2, 3. Class 3s would follow Class 2s when they were all rear-wheel drive, and they just looked the same, but they were a bit louder. So maybe that had something to do with it. And like, well, it's just a faster Class 2. Well, I suppose now it's in this space frame modern age, even though they're using older and older cars. It's definitely in its own way now, and I think it's fantastic now as it was then. But
I agree. It's
always interesting to see how other people's interests come along. So, what class did you prefer to watch? Was it?
I watched.
Obviously, a little bit different. It's not quite as it is now, but was it 8 or was there something else?
I watched a lot of. The thing is, when before you start in juniors, and at the time when me and you were racing, you could only have a junior mini. So you watch a lot of Class 1s, juniors, don't you? Because that's what you're going to do. But, go on, sorry.
No. I'm not really. I don't really watch juniors that much, but I did watch as I sort of approached 11, and I thought, right, I need to learn who these kids are, and look at who's fast and who's not, and then hopefully get a bit of confidence before you start. But I suppose that's one way.
I did watch a lot of Class 3s and obviously Class 7s and 8s, mainly Class 8s. But that's when you're a young kid and watching Class 8s at the showground, they were real good around there. And there's a lot of star names to be impressed by. So yeah, I guess that's where the love kind of Class 8 started. But at that age, they almost looked, unbelievably fast. Like you could never drive one of them. But it's. I guess that's where the kind of Class 8 buzz started, really.
Yeah. So it was late 90s, early 2000s for you, like me. You would start racing under the max speed. I haven't forgotten that. That's what used to be on the Class 3s at the time. But you would end up racing with the same colours, the blue and red, and you would end up with the number 44. I think I have heard why you ended up with 44 at one time, and it's a number that stuck with you till today. What was it about the number 44 for the reason for you?
It's quite important to me, really. It was my granddad's number when he raced, and he was very successful in the East Anglian League. So it would have been in the 70s. Like, I don't really know the exact year, to be honest, but he came close. Like, they raced really just Cambridge and Neath, and I think like Spalding Way. There's a few tracks around Chatteris and all sorts of places at the time. And he was Anglia Autosport 44, so AA 44.
Okay.
And I think he very nearly won the Nationals in Class 3, but for puncture and then engine trouble.
Right.
But I don't really know the ins and outs to give you the full. Maybe when was the first Nationals? 73 or 74?
The first official one was 74.
Yeah, it would have been around. It would have been that one if it was one anyway. But yeah, be interested to find out more about that. But
it would. Earliest stuff I've got goes back to 81. I've actually got some Sturton stuff from the 60s and 70s, but if it didn't travel around at that time, then unfortunately there won't be anything on. But
he raced at Sturton quite a bit, I think, and had a big role at Sturton as well.
Okay.
He had a green and blue Anglia and Escort, I think.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, next time I get round to putting it on, I'll have a search out for the original 44 of.
That's it. So that's where that number started, really. And I don't know, when it's your number, you don't really want to race with anything else, no matter what I was racing. So.
I do remember you joining a club, and the number was used by somebody else, and you sort of almost bought your way into having it.
I just said like he that bothered about it, and but it was like no, he said there's a lot of like dodgy things said at the time, but he said no, I'm not bothered about having it. He said if you buy us some more door numbers, I'll change number. So I basically give him 20 quid for some new door numbers, and that was it. But yeah.
No, it's obviously good that you're keeping the heritage of the number up, and as we're going to discuss, it's actually worked out quite well for you. So, but we will say, your junior career, no disrespect, but you didn't set the world alight.
Certainly not.
Like the family at the time, you stuck pretty much club level. You didn't travel around. You didn't do the big meetings. Yeah. I don't even know if you did a nationals in juniors. Did you? Did you do one?
Yeah. So I did. Trent, obviously. Yeah, that's 2001. Was it 2001?
Yeah, 2001.
And then I did one at York, I think, a year or two later. But that had been the furthest I travelled, and both times was nowhere really. The Mini was one that we built ourselves with home built everything, 12-inch wheels. It's quite heavy, but just learning really. And in the end, my last kind of half season, Dad bought a bit of a better Mini, and things started to pick up then. I think that's when he saw a bit of potential, to be honest.
Yeah, was you confident as a kid then? Because to be honest, my junior career was written off. I was pretty hopeless. And another reason was we never travelled, so we couldn't gain the experience. Like, you wouldn't end up racing these quick kids every week. The only time you would really race the juniors was at the fastest man on grass meeting, when all the top juniors came along for the last test before the nationals. So did you feel you learned much from your junior days, or anything, or could you carry much on?
I don't know. I guess so. It's one thing that the Mini not being a very competitive car actually probably worked out better in the long run, because rather than having the best of everything, and especially on 12-inch wheels, they're not the sought after thing, are they? It was really important to keep it rolling and keep the momentum up, otherwise you would knackered really. I think not having the best car made you I had to try hard, that's for sure. And I just was happy to be out there really. And then that last period, the last kind of half season, where we had a bit of a better Mini, and things started to pick up there and had a few good results. Then we did the Scunny Bass round in 2004, made the final there and finished 5th. And that was it. Won the last Nottingham Winter Series round in it. And we're against Dan Johnson and Matt Manning, who were top boys at the time. And that was it. It's came over and got passed down to Mike then.
Yeah, you probably got to thinking, well, I've almost wasted 4 years now. I've proved that I can be quick. And then you obviously, it's almost like you've gone to Mike and you're like, well, here you are, the car works. It's your turn now. So,
that's it. Yeah.
Those final few moments are the only real standout memories of juniors, because of you starting to do quite well. But another junior moment you was fortunate to enjoy and explore was in 2004. You got to actually have a go in the, at that time, prototype junior special. I found the picture the other day, which I sent you. It was a miserable day. It was pouring down with rain. The track, couldn't do much at the time, but it wasn't the best track in the world, especially in those conditions. No. You ended up getting to sample that car. Do you remember what that was like? And was that what persuaded you, really, that after, when you was going to go into men's, I need to go rear-wheel drive and I need to go specials?
I enjoyed it, even though it was splashing through knee-deep mud. I enjoyed driving it, and the nervousness feeling. I can still remember it now, when you had to pull a number out of a hat to who got to drive it. And I think there was 9 juniors there that day, 9 numbers, and I was lucky enough to get to do it. And I just I knew all along I wanted to, whatever I did, it had to be rear-wheel drive. I don't really know how the Class 8 idea came about, to be honest. It certainly didn't put me off specials. I definitely, I can remember thinking to myself that, I wish I had another year in juniors, to be honest, to have a go at the junior special route. But
well, naturally, it wasn't allowed to happen. Move into senior racing, and Class 8 is where it would be. I don't remember this, but you said when you spoke to Ross about it that your first outing was at a Scunny meeting at the same weekend as the Slop Shabazz round, but I don't remember that because we was at Slopster as well.
Well, there was, I'm certain it was that weekend. There's only 3 Class 8s there, and I think it was me, John Lockwood, and Wayne Yardley, or something like that. yeah, I'm pretty, like, there wasn't any, there wasn't really, it was a quiet meeting. It was perfect for your first meeting in Class 8, really, to get a feel of things. Yeah, I don't know, I might be wrong, but I think it was that weekend. Anyway.
I will be right. But so what did you make of it? Did you sneak up in any practice anyway before you had a race then? What was your initial reactions to, like, when you dropped the clutch for the first time on the line?
Yeah, well, I did have a bit of practice. I had a go around Scunny, as Ant had said, when it was his personal test track. And we borrowed a farmer's field where I was doing some weekend work for a bloke that had a unit on a farm. And he said you could use the field. And I think the car had been, we just got the car at the time. And not know it's come with 2 drive shafts basically in a bag, and not being completely green to it, we just bolted them on. Now I did 2 laps and then the outside shaft snapped because it had been put on the wrong way around. So that was that lesson. But yeah, other than that, then we just started racing really in 2005. Lots of meetings, and yeah, we started doing some bash rounds then as well in 2005. Well, very wet.
Yeah. Well, with obviously the family growing, Mike had come into the juniors and that, and Aaron and Vernon wanted to obviously travel further as well. I mean, you don't move into a class like Class 8 just to stick at club level if you can help it. You want to start exploring. The class was starting to boom again with these very fast and more lightweight cars compared to what they used to be. So what about the feeling then when, like, your first bigger meetings, when you sat on the line and you're thinking, right, I'm with now some of the best drivers in the sport, and you sat there. I mean, I was rather nervous as a 16-year-old when I first started in the faster cars against all these names. But did you feel any nerves, or was you a confident kid really?
I wouldn't have said I was very confident at all really until later, like more recently. But when I first started in Class 8, I'd have said very nervous and almost a bit starstruck with some of the people that would be around you, in heats and stuff. But I was quite fortunate, really, that, pardon me, like you said, my junior career wasn't very glittering, but I didn't really have a great car. But then it didn't take me long, really, to start making BAS finals and stuff in Class 8. And like the map final in 2006, I think I had a trophy at a BAS round. I think it might have been Radford. So I remember him stopping on the track because Joe Butler had won to give out some trophies. Map, I made the final, finished last, but it still wasn't wasting petrol. it was still quite for someone that was only really. I was only just turned 16 really when I had my Class 8. So in 2006 I'd only just turned 17 then. So I was the youngest really by a long way at the time, I think. Well, 3 or 4 years anyway. But yeah.
Was that your original target then? Like first year, try and be competitive at meetings, and then sort of second year, right, we want to aim for finals. Was that sort of how you branched your progress, and that's what you wanted to do? Obviously, Class 8 we know is difficult to be competitive in, week out. So is that? Did you set realistic targets at first? Is that how you wanted to go?
I think I just concentrated on learning in the beginning. I knew I wasn't going to really set the world alight, but just learning, and the ultimate goal was always just to try and make a final. And it was even to try and make a final at club meetings, because that was no mean feat really in CGTO League. So yeah, that was the goal. But then you always want more, don't you? So when I started making a few finals in 2006, then all of a sudden I was like, I really, really want a trophy. So yeah, it started to gather momentum quite quickly then.
Yeah, well, 2007, which will bring us on to next, I hope it's correct, you made your first national final.
Yeah.
And bluntly or not, you finished fifth, which in Class 8 at the Nationals is no disrespect at all. But that was your first national final. I mean, yes, you had been good enough to make other big finals, but when it was the national final, what did it really feel like to make that? And yes, even though you was one out of the trophies and you were fifth, but was you pleased with that result at the end of the day of your first national final?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, buzzing, to be honest. I was so nervous going into that I even kind of half jumped the start or rolled a bit on the start, and then was last off the line really, but fluffed it big time, to be honest. And but it was just, it just was that was the dream, really, from the first time that I went to a nationals was Yorkshire Dales in 2001 to watch my dad, because that was his first nationals that he raced at. And I can remember watching Class 8s there, and with being starstruck, really, like I said. And that was the dream. And then to make the final in 2007 was a big thing, real big thing. I think, that was good.
Well, and you're obviously realising then you're progressing in the right direction. You're getting up there, and your confidence grows. But from there, you would be getting closer and closer to the major victories. It did take a few more years. I know you did have some very frustrating times when between 2007 and 2010, which we'll get onto. There were many times actually you were good enough to win, and something happened. It didn't go in your favour. But 2010, and I commentated on that weekend. I think it was South Wales, not West, but it might have been. But the opening buzz round of 2010, and you won the final. That must have been immense to finally nail that first major victory.
I know how much it really was. Yeah, it meant an awful lot, because I just felt like I couldn't catch a break at that time. I was in I guess that would have been the start of my sixth season. And I feel like I'd kind of paid my dues a little bit, and was putting in a lot of effort into the car. I've been working at PowerTech probably for 3 years, and I'd learned a lot about the engines and stuff. And so like you say, I just never really seemed to have be able to finish a final off. I'd be top qualifier. I was top qualifier for the national final in 2007. Me and Blobby would join, and then fluffed my lines again, really. And me and Blobby just spent the whole race crashing into each other, I think. And I finished fourth, and he finished fifth. And and there just was always something, and didn't really work out right. But then in 2010. There was a new ARD chassis has come out on the drive box, and that car was really good. That in the end, that car, I had a lot of success with that. And but South Wales was good. It was important. I didn't expect to win there. There was no semi-finals then, so a win and 2 seconds got me, Dave Newby and Phil Cooper into a runoff for the final, which took 2 of us. and Cooper won and I was second. And I didn't have a choice of grid. I was on grid 8 where no one else wanted to be. But luckily for me, it was lovely, dry, deep mud out there, and they had water to the inside, and I was away.
I mean, it wasn't really a runoff that you wanted to be in with, is it? I mean, you've got, obviously, Cooper needs no introduction, but you've got Dave Newby again, who is a pretty handy racer. So yeah, I suppose getting through that runoff sort of built you up a bit, ready for that final, because you'd just done that, maybe not even an hour before. And so you are psyched up and ready for it. And I suppose that probably helped. It might not have worked out quite so well if you wasn't in that runoff.
No, that is true, actually. That is very true. I think when the Bash rounds then just had so many cars, there was no UK round. So the last time that you'd seen the track before the final would have been hours ago, really. So the runoff probably was a benefit then, and Cooper finished second. So you know, it may have benefited. It, like you say, it definitely may have benefited us both, having an extra 4 laps on the track. You know, so yeah, it was important to get that ticked off to feel like I could do it, because there was always something that seemed to go wrong before that. But yeah, it was an important one.
Yeah, well, obviously a major win at any point is important, but you never forget your first one. And it obviously set yourself up for years to come, really. I mean, yes, we will skip a few more years, and we're going to go into 2013, which is when things really started to come together. But at that point, we know you'd been approaching around 10 years in the class by 2013. And despite being still young, you are, by that point, an experienced driver, 10 years in the sport, let alone the class, that's even more. But then you're going to a meeting and you might look at the list and you say, well, who are these kids, who are these people that are in it? Was you starting to feel any pressure with more, because it seemed to be after junior specials, a lot of the young drivers, they went straight into class 8. So did you start to feel any pressure from that point with more and more joining the class?
Yeah, really. I suppose that is, when I look back, I suppose I did, yeah. But I had started to consistently make finals and damn trophies. I finished 3rd in the Bass in 2012. That was always another big one to tick for me, was an end of year Bass trophy. And I can remember thinking, right, you know, like I'm, you know, it makes me blush to say this, but I was like, right, I'm big attack for 2013. So I even started to try and get fitter in myself, and, you know, I lost a bit of weight to try and be as serious as that, really. And you know, the car was, well, it was A1, you know, there wasn't anything really more that it could have wanted. And yeah, it started season off and just trying a few different things. And then it was the first time that I spoke to Caffel at X-Tracks, and we put some X-Tracks on it then. And that worked a treat, really. That transformed it as well. And from then, you know, I said on the Ant Show that I was the kind of person that by that time, like 2010, really through to 13, I was doing a lot of racing. Like the complete opposite, really, to how we started. I was doing 24, 25 meetings a year now, and a lot of seat time, you know, and really putting big effort in, wanting to win. So 2012, I think, was the year I did the most meetings, and then going into 2013, it's daft because I didn't really feel like I was doing too much different, but things just started to click and work and at one point it didn't really feel like I could do too much wrong, really. But we started that the start of that season was pretty magical. It went downhill a bit with things around the Nationals time and then other things, but started the Bass season off with 11 wins out of the first 12 races. And the only other, the 12th race really was the final at South Wales, the first round, and that was second behind Cameron. So I had the Bass pretty much won by the end of round 3, really, with drop scores and double ups. Things went a bit more sour then. With I was very unlucky to have that cam break at the Nationals. Which is something that we still can't really. I think the cam hadn't even been in the engine probably 4 or 5 meetings, and it's come from America. I had loads of discussions with Ted and stuff about it, and the only thing that we could really put it down to was that it may have been dropped in transit or not packaged well enough, and it just broke through the oil hole between number 1 and number 2 lobe, and that was it. You know, that was heartbreaking at the time. I really.
I think I can imagine, because I think going into that year's Nationals, as you say, you was practically on the top form. Nobody, apart from 1 or 2 moments, nobody could really get near you. And I remember, I think I even predicted you to win, like many did, because of the form that you was carrying going into it. And then I think I commentated on that year. I might be wrong. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the fact that you pulled up to the line for the first heat, like you've before that though, you've spent, I know there've been meetings, but you've literally spent a couple of months making sure you've got every bit ready to go on the car for the Nationals, correct? And you spend the weeks up to it, everything apart, right? Everything polished, cleaned, everything is right, everything back on, and there's no more you can do. And I remember you pulled up to that line, and only 7 cars left the line, and you were still sat there. And the fact that it's not even if something happened on track, it didn't even get to that. So I can understand why it was so heartbreaking. I remember the last Nationals I did in Class 9, we had an issue with the car not starting in the pits. And we had a fueling issue, and we got it going, and we pulled into the holding lane, and the car would not fire up. They asked us to switch the cars off, and it would not fire up. And we literally got it going as the race before us was on. And then your head's all over the place. But you didn't even get to feel that, because the car felt right just before your race. I was going to, we will just mention that, obviously, I know you said before that you had this fault. You did the second heat because there is a small chance at a Nationals with only 40. There is a small chance, but your second heat didn't quite go to plan. Maybe because your focus wasn't quite right after having to solve this problem. And in the end, you said you gave up and you went home in the end.
Yeah. Well, the second heat, I had a decent start and led it the whole way until the last corner. When Darren Mullen just got underneath me and hit me to the line. And that was really enough to say, I knew I needed 2 wins to even have a chance at it. And but then when it absolutely poured of rain on Sunday morning, that was me done then anyway. There's no way of getting in the final. So that was that,
Yeah. So obviously with this, you'd had this run of form, and then things started. Obviously, it didn't go downhill. It fell off the cliff at the Nationals. How obviously you have to go. I mean, if you're distraught all the way home, you'd probably. Some people, they don't like to talk to anybody about anything because you're not happy because you felt like it was your time. But so, what did you do personally then to yourself to sort of? You got home and you think, right, we've got the rest of the year to go yet. We've got to try and hold on to this Baz lead, because if that happens again, we could lose out. So how did you pick yourself back up then on a personal note?
Well, the big thing that drove me on was obviously I was desperate to win the Bass, and that wasn't finished by any means, you know. So that year, I couldn't get another cam the same as the one that was in the engine. So I had to put something different in it. That year was it was supposed to be Solway Bass, and it got
they got cancelled.
Yeah, it did, yeah, and so I'd not long set up DM Racing, to be honest, and that was the first year I think. I think that was the first year that I missed the fastest man on grass, and the reason being was I had to deliver a customer's car back to Border Counties, so I'd repaired my engine really. But it wasn't to the same spec that it was, and took a customer's car, borrowed my dad's trailer that time because taking 2 cars, and took a customer's car to Border Counties on Sunday morning, so everyone had already raced one day, and raced Sunday. Didn't have a glittering day, a very great day compared to how my season was going. It just I didn't feel the same without the engine being the same. So I didn't even make the final. So I did 2 heats and didn't make the final on the Sunday. But then on this Monday, I did make the final and win the final then. But I was coming away from that. I knew some engine parts were arriving. And then the Bass round a week or 2 after that was at Severn Valley. So that was the big, the carrot dangling in front of you, really. To that was important to brush it off. And I felt like I was getting to the point, and I'll speak about this as we go further on. Like I felt like the Nationals had almost passed me by. Like after that, especially, I felt like there was a strong chance. Yeah, there's a strong chance, really, that, to be honest, it was never going to happen. Because that really, like you say, that probably, when I look back at 2008 being top qualifier, and then 2013 being a hot favourite, you feel like there's 2 left on the table there. Well, I did at the time, and but yeah, but we went then to Severn Valley, and a wire broke in the ECU, which became a low power map in the first heat. And I think they ran 3 heats on the Saturday, because it was going to rain on the Sunday. So after I'd had a first, second, and third, and that was enough then to win the Bass. So I knew I'd won the Bass by Saturday night.
So it's just amazing, isn't it, how different the season can go. I mean, you'd have that up to August, like you're up there, you're on cloud 9, you couldn't put a foot wrong, and then it just shows. I mean, it's motorsport. It just shows how it can change. And if 2013 the Baz was at Severn Valley, it's the same venue as the Nationals, so obviously you had a double whammy of bad luck at the same place.
Yeah.
I mean, and you might, because you did have that strong run to begin with. I mean, imagine if, well, obviously you had the bad luck after, but it could have happened if you didn't go to the Border Counties meeting or wherever to try the car. You might have actually lost out over the next 2 Baz rounds. I mean, there was some fortunate parts to it.
Yeah.
To obviously win the Baz, but it was.
I can remember thinking at the time that I seemed to, up my Class 8 career up to that point, seemed to have a good half to the season and a bad half. So I couldn't even really string a full, solid, consistent season together. But thankfully, in more recent times, that's not been a problem.
We'll touch some wood there. Anyway, the Baz itself. It's a target which hundreds of people set out to try and win. That's why they join it. what did it mean to you to actually win it? I mean, it must have been a relief by the end of it because of how the second half of the year went. But what did it really mean to somebody who has actually achieved a goal they set out for?
It was very important to me, and it meant a lot. But the overwhelming feeling was of relief, and really, like winning the Bass is something that I still strive for. I want to say that first, but it's not the same as winning the Nationals, because people just don't react to it the same way. It's difficult to explain really, but people just don't, say, oh, well done, that was it. And it almost felt like a bit flat afterwards. After something that you've put everything into, then after that, it felt like a bit of a come down then, really.
Yeah, do you think it's a bit odd because you say it's a flat reaction response, but this is something you've tried to be the best at over 5 race weekends, but the Nationals is just the one weekend.
Yeah.
But you would think you would get at least a close reaction to that, wouldn't you? But I suppose that's the magic of the Nationals, and it is like no other, wherever it is and whatever happens.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's a standalone event that is like no other really, and winning the Bass was important, and it was special, but the feeling of winning the Nationals is unbelievable, and really, it really is very special. But I think that comes back to that one event feel rather than a championship. It's like any big open meeting, like the fastest man on grass or map or anything like that. That winning that big open meeting is such a buzz. So winning Bass rounds is a buzz, but then winning the series doesn't seem to be. It should have a lot more. It should have a lot more really than it does, I think. But yeah.
Yeah, well, they obviously try to make it a big occasion for everybody who does be successful in it, and you can't fault that. But I suppose, like you say, in a weird way, everybody remembers who won the Nationals. But if you tried to reel off who won the last 5 years of the Bass or the UK, you might not remember. But everybody remembers who won the Nationals. And I suppose that's the thing, because in 20 years' time, people will be able to remember that very race at the Nationals. But not everybody will remember the Bass final you won, apart from maybe yourself and other people. But everybody seems to remember the Nationals, and you can't take that away from the memories and obviously the personal achievement. But we're gonna go off track, because you did mention it once, twice. But pretty much since you left school, through college, whatever you did, you chose like a path down the engineering route. So Autographs obviously drew you in at a young age, but you wanted to go further than that, and you wanted to learn more about the arts within it, and that is the engine building side of things. And as you mentioned, you spent quite a few years working for PowerTech, later known as RPE. But then in 2013, you decided to set up your own business of DM Racing. So how come you decided to do it yourself? Was it because you were maybe fed up of traveling around the world to different hotels and things like that? I'm sure there's obviously some great times and memories, which you did share some on with Talking Dirty. But was it just because obviously you were starting to eventually have a family and of your own and things like that? So was it just you wanted to work at home, closer to home, and you wanted to be more dedicated within the sport?
Yeah, there's a lot of things at the time within PowerTech that were changing. So one of the things was Ted was winding down really, and he was getting ready to retire. So that would have meant different managers and people in the top. And another thing was I know that they didn't have such a big interest in anything other than radical racing.
Yeah.
So they were beginning to do less and less outside work, and for that reason, less tuning work. So I didn't. I started to think about it for a while, and then the time just seemed right, to be honest, to make the move. Then, I still lived at home with mum and dad. I could work out of the workshop there. Didn't have massive overheads or anything like that, and it just gave me a bit of a help in the beginning to get things up and running. So yeah, that's how it kind of started, really.
Yeah, and I know things were on the change at the time, because even though obviously they specialised in the bike engines, but they did have a go at doing some car engines. And when we had the Class 9 at the time, we actually spoke to them about doing our engine. And I think they did do a little bit on ours, actually. But you could tell, as you said, that their focus was they was getting the customer base on the circuits and expanding into radical performance engines and radical as a whole. So yeah, it sort of fell into place for you, I suppose, and for you to take it on. And you certainly quickly grew a strong customer base within the sport. You obviously put your word out there and your name out there that this is what you was doing. You sponsored the ladies and juniors at St. Neots.
Yes, fortunately, actually, it did end up. Someone else was sponsoring it.
Oh, right.
But,
pay them off as well, did you?
Say again, sorry?
You didn't pay them off as well, did you?
No. No. So, yeah, a guy that sponsored me and helped me out quite a bit with a few parts and tyre bill and stuff at the time had sponsored the ladies and juniors, but then as the closer it got to it, his business was starting to wind down.
Right.
So he'd already signed up for it and paid for it, but then didn't want his business name attached to sponsoring. So he basically just said, you can just put your name on it. So it's quite unfortunate there, really. But,
you got some sponsorship.
Yeah. So it's a nice little helping hand when you're just starting out.
Well, no, I mean, as we say, people had obviously known you from working at PowerTech RPE. So it was quite an easy transition for people to still come to you when you'd set up yourself, because they knew your work. But it's grown quite impressively, hasn't it, since? That must be quite a satisfaction, really, on a personal note, with people coming to you, because they're obviously trusting you with your work. They're happy with what you do. And it must be great for you to see there's a lot of cars out there now which display your name. And obviously you don't ask them to put your name on the car. I know you've got it on the engine. That's possibly enough for you. But the fact people go out there and put DM Racing on the car for people to see, it must be quite pleasing on a personal note. Yeah,
I am super proud of that, to be fair. And I put a lot of work in and a lot of hours, and pride myself really on taking care and being a bit of a perfectionist with engine work and jobs. So it's to have people put their trust in you is important. I want to make sure everyone feels like they've got the best of me, really, and got what they wanted. It's gone as well as I could ever have hoped, really. It's very, it makes me smile when I see cars with the DM Racing logo on it and see customers winning with our engines, because it's a nice, it's something that you kind of aspire to, really. It's a nice thing. It's a nice thing to come with it all,
Yeah. Are you always happy if it's a Class 8 in front of you?
I'll just say yes. I might not read it.
Past them because you want to be in front. But no, like I say, when you basically, I mean, obviously you've made this your life, your passion, your day-to-day ins and out, and I'm sure you carry the most commitment as possible. If somebody rings you on an evening when you've had a long day doing work, and then somebody needs help, or it might be a potential order or whatever, you want to be there to help. And I suppose
without a doubt,
it also helps because you are so committed to being involved in the sport and racing as well. I'm sure even on a meeting, yes, it's not always easy on the day if you're trying to work on your own cars, but I'm sure you're there to help out on the day as well if possible.
Yeah, definitely.
So, it must be a great deal of satisfaction with what you do.
Yeah, I sometimes my car and my stuff really comes last now, and I don't put as much time into my own car, or haven't done really since 2014 as I was for a period there, because working and earning money and trying to build that brand and the name is more important. And I raced a lot less in 2014 than I did in 2012 and 13 for that reason as well. It's difficult to, at one point it was difficult to juggle the two, but I feel like we've got a really good balance now.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'll know as well, children and take up a lot of time, and having kids and stuff. So juggling that as well is, there's not a spare minute. But I feel like we've got a good balance now of everything really.
Good. Well, that's what you need, because otherwise you get the stress levels from all angles. And if you wake up in the morning and you're relaxed and you're not tensed about what you've got to do during the day, and then when you get to the end of that day, then you're stressed about what's got to happen when you get back in the house and things like that, then it becomes less of a job, doesn't it, and more of an enjoyable hobby of what you're doing. And
the turning point for me really was because I was doing an awful lot of hours and had a lot of engines in, but the turning point for me really was getting some help. And I've got Jay Thompson, who's got a Class 8 from North Wales. He came on board 2016, I think.
Okay.
And, he works with us part time, but he's brilliant. Couldn't manage without him, really.
Yeah. It looks like you're definitely not giving that up in the near future, but your focus is still on bike engines, I take it. But is there any interest in looking at car engines as well, or is it there's enough work out there to please obviously 7s, 8s, and 10s? The focus is on bike engines, but I've got a couple of little projects on the go. But I just never haven't got time to get on with them at the moment. So I've got a Duratec in bits and the machine work done and prepped, just waiting to get some bits ordered for it and get it together really. And then I've also got two 2-litre Z-Tech engines stripped and the machine work done. Really with an eye on building some 2-litre hot rod or Brisker F2 engines as well. But all three of them engines, have been on the shelf for well over 12 months. So whether they ever get built or not, I don't know. But we'll see. Well, it could be a fairly big market if you do end up in the stadium side of things. Obviously, hot rod racing has a big support base and following, so it just depends. Obviously, as you seem to work out quite well, timing is everything. So if timing comes right and you expand into that side of things, then all the best to you on that front. And obviously, it looks like the support in autographs is still going to be forefront, and
definitely
look forward to that. So, bit of a plug there, obviously, if anybody interested in a new engine, if they're going down the bike engine route. I'm sure we'll have one in the post in the next couple of weeks. So, thank you very much, Dan.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to put it in, but it'd be nice to have one. Anyway, we're going to get back to your racing. And we're actually going to skip on a few more years, and we're going to go to 2017, which I'm sure you remember very, very well, because we're going to go straight into the Nationals. We know how much you love Cumdee's track.
Yeah.
So when you knew that the Nationals was going there, you must, obviously, despite everything gone off through the years up to it, you must have had a slight buzz about that year's Nationals with it being on that track, because we know it's one you particularly enjoy. So what were how confident was you going into that weekend? I suppose maybe not as much as what we could may think. But yeah, what were your feelings going into the 2017 Nationals?
Well, like contrary to my earlier Class 8 career now, after 2013 and some quieter years, I wasn't a nervous little pussycat anymore. I did believe in myself a bit then. And going to Cumdee, I did done a club meeting. I knew the car was really good around there, for one. Done a club meeting there earlier in the year, and that has gone well. So I was confident, but I wouldn't have said that I really expected to go there to win, because 2013 was always in the back of my mind. That brought me back down to earth with a bump, really. And I just remember that weekend. I'd had a bit of a stomach bug leading up to it, and it wasn't nerves; it was genuine stomach bug. And I wasn't very well, so I hadn't done loads of prep on the car. And we didn't go like normally. We'd go on a Thursday to the Nationals. We didn't even get there till Friday morning, so I was feeling a bit rubbish. But yeah, I just felt dead relaxed, dead chilled, and looking forward to it. And then, the way that weekend turned out was, I'll just never forget it. It was perfect from the beginning to the end. And if you dream about winning the Nationals, then that's the way that you dream it happens, And I was very, very fortunate to have done it, and it meant the world. That did. That's something I dreamed about since I was a kid, really. And like I said previously, almost begin to think it was never going to happen. So it was really important. And but going even like as the heats were going by, and the first heat went by and that went to plan, and the second heat went by, and someone said to me on the Saturday night something like, "Oh, you don't want to win all 3 heats. That's bad luck." Yeah. And I just remember, I just turned to him straight away and said, "Rubbish," but in a different word. Because it just felt good, it felt right, and wanted to,
Well, I was going to say
keep the momentum rolling, and then say again.
No, I was going to jump in and say, do you have any of that national superstition then? Do you like get to the event and do you look at your pairings? Do you look at your races? Do you think about that, or do you just take each race as it comes? Did you previously believe you shouldn't have 3 wins at the Nationals in the heats, or if you're, if you're confident in yourself and the car, then after 2 heats, then why should you give up after 3? Because you might relax and you might concentrate, and you might somebody might dive up the inside and clip your wheel and it'd be all over and that. So I suppose do you just focus on each race as it comes, or do you have any superstition on it?
Yeah, I haven't got it in me to not go out there to win, so I'd be going out there to win every time anyway. And previously, I would have spent hours on a Thursday night or Friday morning poring over my heats and who I'd got and what, how I hoped things would go. And then to more recently, really, even before that year, like 2016, really, I think it started. I just thought, look, I weren't interested in knowing, and I still don't want to know now. I like, if we're at a bash round even, I'm not interested in who I've got. Normally Nicola will go down there and just say, heat 1, lane 1. And sometimes she'll just WhatsApp me a message and just say, heat 1, lane 1. And that's it. And that's how...
I suppose the problem you've got is sometimes, I mean, I was never confident. And if you look at your heats and definitely at the Nationals and you see who you're paired with, I'd always remember, I'd look down, I thought, well, my pairing's not that bad. But on that weekend, there might be the best there. And same, I'd look at my heats and I'd think, right, well, I know I could win that one, but I might not be so good in that one. And I know my last heat's really tough. And I've knocked myself before I've even got in the car.
Yeah, that's it. Like my last 3 Nationals, my pairings have been, in 2017, it was Mike Mumford. I think that was the year he won the UK or was winning the UK or something. 2018 was Jake Herdman, who beat me in the final, and he was second and I was third. And 2019, it was Russ Shepherd. So, they're not really, there's no slouches in them 3 boys, that's for sure.
Definitely not. But, so anyway.
I can
go on.
I can remember then going down to the start line for the final, and Steve-O was top qualifier as well. So he'd had 3 wins, I'd had 3 wins. And like I didn't touch the car, it was perfect. And I can remember I had the first gate pick, and I can remember looking at him and going, I didn't really know. I had 2 in my head. I wanted to either go grid 2 or grid 8. I remember looking at him and saying, what do you think? And he goes, you're on your own. You've got to make your choice. Yeah. And I thought, yeah, you're right, And so I said, the woman come along and said, well, what grid are you going? I said, grid 8. And so I went in 8, and she turned to him and said, what grid are you going? And he said 2. And straight away I thought, And then we had the first run of the final, if you might remember this, or if you've watched it back recently or not, I don't know. But in the first run of the final, I tried to get across, and Steve-O and Steve Mills come together, and I went up on 2. How I didn't go over, I don't know. Went up on 2 wheels. There's a big crash, and it's red flagged. And when I come back into the rerun lane, I remember saying to my brother, I said, I've made a big mistake here. I'm never going to get across from grid 8. But then, it did. It worked out perfectly in the end, and had a good start, and it was away then.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you feel pressure in the race? Because obviously that you'd had your first attempt and it didn't go to plan, and then you've only got 20 minutes or so, however long it takes before they call you back up, and that. So straight away, it looked like in your mindset you had to maybe do something different to avoid that incident again, because there was a good chance of it happening. But so when you got out there, because I think the second attempt you took more of a bigger sweep around the outside. I might be wrong. Yeah, but I'm sure that's how it went. So you changed your tactics, and it seemed to work out better. But how did it feel once you got in front? Did you just focus on in front, or did you think about anything behind?
I knew how good the car was, and knew that really, to be honest, I thought the only person that could have beat me that weekend was Steve-O. When I got in front, I didn't even think about him or anything else. My first thought was when, after I'd got over the buzz of thinking you're leading, I thought my first thing, I just thought 8 qualifying laps now, 8 of the best laps of your life. Don't make a mistake. And that's just how I treated every corner, and just hit my marks the same every lap.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, come these tracks.
The last lap black.
Well, come these tracks a bit different, innit? Because both corners are different. They're like, you've got quite a tight first corner if you're running the inside, but then the outside's a bit more flowing. So it can be tricky. But obviously not everybody gets to experience this. So what was it like when you crossed the finish
line? Well, I just couldn't stop myself from going down the back straight for the last time. I thought, I've got this. I couldn't stop myself. Couldn't stop my chin from wobbling, like almost that emotional, being like, just shaking, buzzing. And, I went across the finish line and spun it around on the grass there and did a little bit of put my arm out the window or whatever. But when you win the Nationals, it does feel like everyone is genuinely pleased for you. And it's a magical feeling. Yeah, I couldn't wait to get back to the pits then to see, my dad and mum and dad and Emma and the rest of our lot really who know, how much it means and stuff.
Because I mean, obviously it's a start. Like when you go back to the very beginning as a junior, I mean, there could have been an occasion where really, because you didn't do that much, you might have done your juniors and you might not have even carried on. Because at the time,
I for someone else maybe, but I just loved racing so much that I was pestering my dad all the time. Can we go somewhere else? Can we do this? Can we do that? And I just loved it. I knew I wanted to work in motorsport and stuff, and I couldn't do anything else. So it's a good job I can build an engine.
Well, what about the next? After winning the Nationals, you had one more race that weekend, and it couldn't have gone any better. It was the National Champion of Champions race. It's the biggest title in the sport. It's the one which only a few can win. And in fact, sadly enough, I looked through the list, and you are the 33rd person to win it. So the National Champion of Champions. I mean, it's a very different race. Obviously, you've done, no disrespect, but you should think in a Class 8 and a Champ of Champs, it should be a lot easier than winning the Class 8 final because you've got to catch the slower car. But track conditions can change. They could have watered it, whatever. It could have been raining, whatever. But not everybody can be in this race. And to win it, what really is that like? I suppose you're not even quite over what's happened. It could have only been 25 minutes before. So really, did this sink in at all when you won the Champ of Champs?
That was a bit overwhelming. Like you've just hinted at that. That was a bit overwhelming, to be honest. Because if the Nationals had felt like it was the one that was starting to get away, and Champ Champs wasn't even on the radar. Do you know what I mean? It was. And what made it so overwhelming as well was then the cars in front of the podium ceremony and with a lot of people around it. It was the cherry on the top for sure, and that was. Just overwhelming. Just all I really wanted for as long as I could remember was that Class 8 national title, and. The Champs was just a bonus at the time. It become to mean a lot more to me in 2018 because going into the Nationals that year, I was so desperately didn't want to just be a one-hit wonder, and I then ended up wanting to win the Champs again more so than to win Class 8 again.
Okay.
for the I just didn't want to. I don't know. It's difficult to explain. I didn't really just want to be. I didn't want people to just think, oh, that year was just, you know, he won it that year, but that was it, you know. Yeah, so that's when it really, the importance of it and wanting to win it so bad, that made it the next year, win the championships next year, probably more special, really.
Well, yeah, I remember on 2018, I did my pit walk, and on the bit when I left the pits, you were actually stood outside one of the trade stands, I think. You was talking to Joan Bevins, I think, at the time, and I surprised you with the camera and had a quick word then and asked you how confident you was going into the weekend. You did put up a hell of a title defence, really, because obviously you don't want to lose something you've got.
No, you don't.
When it's a title, you don't want to give that up, and you're going to do. If you do have to give it up, you're going to do your utmost to keep it. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Were you disappointed? I don't. Hopefully, it's not too sore. But was you disappointed at the end of the Class 8 final, or do you think that you'd done your best and now it's time to focus on the Champ of Champs?
No. Well, yeah, a bit of. I was really disappointed, actually. I had felt quite a bit of pressure going into that weekend. Obviously, going in as national champion was I wanted to make the final. That was my big thing. I didn't want to crash and burn out and won it the year before and then not have a chance to defend it. But we struggled all weekend getting the car to go any good. And tried things that are like down to like gearing and all sorts that we never had tried before, really. So, and in the final, I had a decent enough start in first corner, but I still felt like I was not catching the cars in front of me. I was getting caught. I didn't have really I had the opposite to what I had the year before, really, which was a car which felt like it was on rails. So I was disappointed. I felt like I'd done the best. I'd got more really out of the car than I probably should have, actually, to finish third. But then straight away I started thinking about the Championships race. And again, that was what happened in that, really was quite fortunate, if anything. You know, I tried my hardest chasing Tom Lewis. And then, you know, was on the last lap, really, or the one before last lap, just coming onto the finish straight, like I looked down at the temperature gauge and it was off the scale, and I thought to myself, this thing can blow up if it wants, I'm not stopping. And just as I come out of the top corner, the engine went sick and went like, it just kind of like dropped power. But I thought, I'm still going, it can have it until the end for this one. And then, so I dropped back probably like 4 or 5 car lengths from Tom straight away then. And then he made the mistake on the pit spend, and I had to brake and go around him. And Adam Henley come up the inside. I had to clutch it 3 times to go back up the start straight. And but it just kept going, and got us around, luckily.
Well, yeah, because you would end up, then you would actually win the race. And you've got the unique distinction, which I did actually put in a quiz, that you're, I think, the only person to have more national champion wins than class national wins. So that must be an odd feeling. I know. I know it has happened before where the defending champ of champs has won it without defending the class title. But the fact you've actually got 2 champ of champ wins to 1 class win is very unique. But if you said if you said that going into 2018 you actually wanted to win the champ of champs more than the class, you achieve that goal. And it might not happen again. You might remain the only one to do that, but you never know.
I'd like to think that we've got more nationals titles in us, but let's see. Well,
you're certainly not giving up, because we're going to go straight to 2019. And at Evesham 2 years ago, that was one of the hands down, that was one of, I know you ended up second, but it was hands down one of the best races I've ever spoke about. And it was such an amazing race on a track which it really, no disrespect to Evesham, but it shouldn't have delivered that kind of race.
Yeah.
I mean, you had one thing I want to mention actually first is when I did my pit walk again on the Sunday, you definitely took a lot of pride in what you'd achieved. And some people might have seen it as cocky, but I definitely don't. But when I walked around that pits on the Saturday morning, you had the Champ of Champs trophy sat on the roof of your car. And I'm not saying that because you want everybody to say, look at me, I've got the trophy everybody wants. I think that is actually honouring the trophy.
That's the way. I'm glad that you've said that, because that is the way that I viewed it. And the way that I thought about it was, there's a strong chance on Evesham's surface that a Class A isn't going to win. I remember saying that to you. Class A isn't going to win the Champ of Champs, right? So this, firstly, could be the last time that I have this trophy.
Yeah.
So why not put it on show? And secondly, Friday afternoon, when scrutineering is on, and Saturday morning, when there's a lot of people that have made their annual trip to the watch the Nationals, not many of them might have ever really seen that trophy before.
Of course.
Other than like quickly given to the winner on the podium on Sunday evening, if they've stayed that long to watch the trophy presentations, you know. So putting it on there wasn't about anything other than honouring the trophy, showing it off a little bit for the last time that I might end up having it. You never know. I'd like to think not, but you know, there's a strong chance. Well, it might be, it might not, mightn't it? So, but yeah, it was more about, you know, it's the pinnacle of the sport, isn't it? The National Champs Trophy. Why not let everyone see it, and rather than hide it in your caravan and stuff for the day?
It shouldn't be hidden away. One which, whether it is exactly the same trophy, that trophy is older than you, it's older than me, it's older than a lot of people who will ever see it. And it will be older than probably anybody that will win it going on. So it needs to be seen. And like I said, I think I did walk up and the car, you'd done your work on the car. It looked perfect, just sat there. And the trophy being displayed as a proud achievement and a proud moment that you'd had, it should be presented and it should be seen. I think that's the way it should be. Something that I've actually thought, well, I know they have been doing it more recently, but yes, there should be at the beginning of the Nationals, there should be a parade of the defending champions. Why not? Let everybody applaud the people for the previous year's success, because they might not have seen them for 12 months since when they won. Personally, if there was time, I'd have every car at the Nationals do a lap as a parade. You could stagger in 4 or 5 wide, let all the Class 1s go around so everybody can see who's competing that weekend and give them a moment.
Yeah. Good idea.
Unless what happens to what happened to me at the Sturton's Baz round, I think it was in 2001, when, you know, the parades Sturton always used to do.
Yeah.
Well, I used to nag my dad every time to go out when we had the Class 1 and I was a junior, and Dad wouldn't let me because he would be racing in the Class 1. So at that he says, yeah, you can take it this time because I'll get in the last race. Then you just drove up to the line and you're on the east. Well, I got halfway around and it broke down. Embarrassing on the Nationals weekend if somebody broke down doing a bit of a parade lap. But I think I would like to see that. I would like to see all the Class 1s go round, all the Class 2s go around, threes, etc. Because I think then everybody can be appreciated for qualifying for the Nationals, because in some leagues it's really hard to do.
Yeah, I agree. But if you watch the start of the Formula 1 Stock Car World Final, then the trophy will be on the front bumper of last year's world champion, as far as I know, or the trophy will be on the front bumper of whoever's on the front row anyway. And you know, it's very special trophy, really, with a lot of big names on it and a lot of you know, heroes from the past or whatever. So you know, why not let people see it?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that 2019 final, you'd had a good weekend up to it. You had a really strong final. I mean, you can't discredit Matt for the performance he did. The way Tom tried in the early laps, and I don't think anybody in those top few places could have really tried any harder, yourself included. And yeah, it's certainly one of the best races that I've spoke about. But would you regard, again, without any, I don't like the word cockiness or anything, but do you feel like now, from the past 3 Nationals of being in those top places, do you feel like you've really earned your position of being one of the people at the forefront of the class? I mean, you've worked at it, that's for sure.
I would like to think so.
Would you?
I would like to think so, and I would like.
I was going to say, would you like to think that?
I would like to. Oh, go on.
I was going to say, to put it hopefully in a way, would you like to think that now you are the people, you are one of those who people have got to try and focus on as a serious competitor every week to obviously for them to be able to achieve the results that they want?
I'd like to think so. I think ultimately other people's opinion is, you know, what you know, it's not down to me to say whether I am a front runner or not. I guess it comes down to, you know, what your peers think in a way. But I think I feel confident enough in what I do, and think that more recently the results do the talking for themselves, and you know, we deserve to be thought of in that way, really.
Yeah, I suppose in a different way you could put it is, if somebody went to a meeting and they saw you there, they knew that if they were on their game, they would be in for a good race with you. That's sort of a way you could put it, really. Like, you know, when if you go to a meeting and you think, yeah, we've got Dan Mackenzie, we've got Coops here, we've got whoever, you know, you're going to get a good race if you're up for it. And I suppose it's nice to be thought of like yeah, you know that you're guaranteed good racing wherever you go. And that's sort of how I was trying to put it. I'm not trying to put it bluntly in any way, because you've worked your way to be here. And as I say, you have earned that place, I feel anyway, by the achievements that you've worked to do.
I feel like it's like with winning the Nationals in 2017, really. You know, I felt like I'd paid my dues with what had gone in the past, and with how long I've been in Class 8 now, that I deserved it, and no one could really begrudge me of winning the Nationals. You know, it weren't like I just stepped into it and been really, really lucky and won it on my first go or anything. But you know, it's I feel like we've run fairly consistently for a good number of years now. So no, like I said, I think you've worked hard and earned your place to be there. Back to 2019, and one moment which I know you hold very special to you, wasn't even on the track itself. You've got it as, I think, one of your profile pictures on Facebook, or your other picture on there. But it was that little run
off the track, from the moment you pull off the track to the pits when they have that row of spectators. And it's in a word, it's a beautiful photo, because it's mainly the kids, because they're loving it. They're reaching over that barrier, that fence, to put their hand out to try and reach you, and you're responding back to it. That must have been a really, really special moment, to be appreciated for what you've done on the track, because these are the kids, whatever age they are, they're looking up to everybody on track, and one day they'll be there, hopefully. So it must have been quite a special feeling, really, to see that appreciation, even just by a little hand reaching over the fence to try and reach you.
Yeah, it was very special, and I think Evesham did amazingly well with the Nationals in 2019, because there's a lot of things like where that grandstand was positioned couldn't have been any better. And the first time, I think it was in the third heat, was the first time I came off the track, and it almost caught me unawares, because people were leaning over the fence, and like kids and stuff leaning over the fence, and I was a bit like, oh mate, yeah, like high five. but yeah, so and then as the day has gone on, obviously they're doing it more and more, and then after the finals, everyone along that front row of the fence there was doing it. So it's just cool, because I can remember being that kid, and probably a bit like yourself. You know, you'd have been there and done that, and been like, being that kid at the fast man on grass, I'd love to high five off, you know, whoever was winning fast man on grass that year. So yeah, it's a picture that is very cool, and it does. It means it's a nice photo. It means a lot, really. It'd be nice if it was next to the first place trophy in the workshop, because that one, like you said, Matty Beresford was brilliant in that final. But I can't help but still feel like it's the one that got away, really. But it's I've watched that final back nearly as many times as I've watched the one that I won. And Emma jokingly says to me, "Did you still finish second?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, every time I watch it, I still finish second. But it's your commentary on that was what made that race to watch back as well on the video. You know, good commentators make races, really, whether it be your Murray Walkers or whoever it is, like whoever commentates on the MotoGP these days, like Keith Hewen, or it always used to be Toby Moody and people like that, down then to more like stock cars and Grasschat racing. Top commentators make races, and you know, your commentary on that race is really something that makes watching it back. It still feels exciting after watching it 100 times.
Well, it's always appreciated when somebody says that, because I don't actually feel myself as a very good commentator. One, I don't like the sound of myself, which is bizarre, despite me constantly talking on camera and microphones to people. But it works two ways, because yes, it's good for us to try and help broadcast the race and make it as exciting as possible. But if you guys don't give us the best race of your abilities, then it makes it difficult to try and make the race as exciting as it is. I always set myself the target of making every race exciting, regardless of what it is, how many cars are in the race. I mean, that Class 8 race, because of it being a polished track, it could have been the leader could have been halfway down the straight, and then second place, third, and then a gaggle at the back. That's sometimes how polished racing goes, but it didn't. And it really helped me by you guys racing to the best of your abilities that day. It helped me create, hopefully, an even better sound to the race than what it already was. But yeah, it's appreciating to hear good words on that. And we work with a fantastic team, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about more great races soon.
Hopefully, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that really covers up the nationals at the moment, because obviously we haven't had another one since. But I'm sure you'll be buzzing to be back there, because there's no other meet like the nationals, no matter what anybody says. And hopefully it'll be in a form where we can enjoy it again. But we're going to go away from that, and we're sort of going to go right round back to the beginning of where our racing life started, and that's the fastest man on grass. It is still a special meeting to me. I don't care what anybody says, because it's not at the showground anymore. I would love to have been able to race around the showground. I did get one adult season at the showground. I didn't write this down, but how much would you have loved to have buzzed a Class 8 around the showground?
Yeah, I would have. It would have been special. I always, I did a few junior races there. Probably, I don't know, what year did they move? 2002?
2003 they were there.
Yeah, so I probably did 2 seasons worth of junior racing there. And I would have loved to have had a Class 8 around there. But I don't know what it was, because it was tyre wall all the way around, like you say, but the dirt just seemed brilliant there. And the racing was well, we look at things being having grown up on fastest man on grass. We look at things as maybe through rose tinted glasses, but how special that meeting was, because of that it's like that boyhood dream, in it. You're there and you're looking over the fence, and is, like you said, you made a family holiday of it. And it's still, I've only I had a couple of years off from 2013 until 16 or 17 or something. Anyway, but I've done it the last few years, and it still is it's an important meeting. I think it still should be classed as an important meeting, and one of the season's big open meetings, really.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's still special. And my first, 2010 actually, I finished second in the fastest man final, and to me that was incredible. I think I finished 4th in my runoff, and then 3rd in the fastest special, and then 2nd in the fastest man, and to me that felt the world there. I should have won it, and I'm gutted I never did. I won the fastest special on grass actually in 2015, and that was the year I should have won the fastest man, and it didn't go my way. I'm not going to mention who I blame, but I think it was 20. But to me, it was just so special when you win something. It's the same with the nationals. I'm sure it is to you. When you win something like that with history, and you look down that trophy and you see all the names who have won it before. I mean, like, you're looking at the fastest man on grass. You've got Terry Brown, Lyndon Phelps, and people like that. And then even more recently, you've got like Phil Cooper's name on there. Steve Lindsay's won it twice. You've got some really, really good names on there, and it's all this history. And that's what meant something to me, to actually have my name on the same trophy. Obviously, as being something you grew up with, and now you're still the defending champion, actually. Congratulations. And you've won it twice. How does that stack up? Because as I've said, I mean, Sturton's current track's not easy, really, because it's a small track. It's a small track, and it polishes. And it depends on the conditions. You could have a really polished inside, but the outside be still loose, and you can have a really tricky track to race on. And like I said before, I still think that the fastest special on grass is one of the hardest races you could win, because you're against 8s, 9s, 10s. Yeah. And now F600's the pesky little things which can get in, if they get in front of you because you've had a bad first corner, you're going to struggle to get past them. So how much does that obviously mean to you to have your name on those trophies?
I agree that Sturton's track is I like Stearns track. I think it's good. Like my dad always says, it's grass track racing. You can't always be flat out on big, flat, smooth tracks. You know, you got to have, you know, it doesn't matter if every now and then one track's small, one track's bumpy, one track's whatever. That's what it should be like. And I agree with that. But to answer it meant an awful lot, really. Like, you know, it's again was a target that almost didn't feel like you'd ever get to as a kid. And yeah, like then in 2018, things just started to fall into play. I finished, I think, 3rd or 4th in the Class 8 final, and then I can't remember. I got through my runoff anyway. I didn't win the runoff, I don't think. But then I won the fastest special and won the fastest man. And you know, my dad it rained on the Sunday quite heavily.
Yeah.
And then was drawn. Like we stayed. Like some people went home and stuff, but we stayed around. And you know, I remember they stopped racing for ages. We were watching the Formula One in the caravan, and but my mum and dad weren't even there. They come up on the Monday, and like every race, I wanted to win badly. But I think what really made it hit home for me was like when I come off the track, there weren't any, my dad's reaction to it was special, really, because there weren't anyone else really about or around. But you know, it being like we were CGTRO members, obviously for a long time, and is very special to win that. And for me as well, because like Sandy's quite a close family friend. I still speak to her quite regularly now. I enjoyed winning it for her as well, because I knew that she would want to see me win it. And she was there really, like she was at Cumdee and was one of the first people to like greet me when we was going around the trophy truck and stuff. So that's her. I don't forget her support. She winning it was as much really for me as it for her, because I knew how much she would enjoy that, you know. But it's very special still to win Fast Man on Grass.
It is, and I like that. I like how it is actually so personal to you as a historic moment. And like I say, you grew up around there, around that meeting. It was the pinnacle before we discovered the nationals and the VAS and things like that. That was the one we wanted to be part of. It's the one we wanted to win, and you've managed to do it twice. And I'm pretty sure that when the next fastest man on grass does happen, you'll be there to defend it, because I mean, now you are getting used to winning trophies and that's great. But when it's ones with historic meaning, it means even more. So we can only.
It's certainly not lost on me. I can promise you that. And I've had a look through the trophy and worked out how many more times I'd have to win it to be the winningest fastest man on grass. I've still got a few more to go, but it's a very important trophy. It's not the biggest one that you'll ever see, but it's a small trophy that means an awful lot, really.
Good. Well, I'm glad that you value each success in its own way, but each one is still on a personal merit to you. So there's nothing wrong with that at all. We're going to go up to the recent time now, 2020. Obviously not the year we thought was going to happen. We're hoping 2021 will improve before it gets like last year. But you did eventually add a car to the DM racing fleet, and you would now have a 7. It's not the first time you've raced Class 7 or driven Class 7. You have had a couple goes before. One quite moment I remember is you borrowed the single engine Chink for the Scunny Speedway, which despite breaking the car in one race, you actually went and won the final. So, but now you're back in Class 7, and this time it looks more of a full-time basis. But I suppose with 2020 being the year it was sort of a way, yes, you wanted proper meetings, but it was also sort of a way you had some no pressure getting used to the car and settling in. But how does that car compare to the 8, which obviously you're accustomed to?
I enjoy driving the car, and it's the route. I didn't want to do a twin. Basically, I wanted to do a single engine, big 1600 single engine Class 7, and try and go down that route. But to me, the buzz isn't the same in the Class 7 as it is the Class 8. I feel the car, and it's a mega car, and I think Nicola's sharing it with me. I think she'll have a lot of success in it. But I could take it or leave it, really. The Class 8's the most important thing to me. And the Class 8 gives me, like, the corner speed and everything of Class 8 is phenomenal, really, for the cars that they are. The Class 7 is... The reason for building another car was trying to get the most amount of track time out of a meeting that you're already at. So if you're at a bass round, there's sometimes on Saturday you might have a lot of waiting around, and the car was belonged to Phil and Lynn Olsen originally, and then they sold it, and then we ended up buying it, and then selling the engine that was in it and doing loads of work to it and stuff. And it's a really good car. It is a really good car. I don't think that when we get rolling and stuff, I don't think you'll get much more out of a single Class 7 than what that is. But one thing that I have realised with racing it 3 or 4 times at the end of last year is it's not a Class 8, and it doesn't give me the same buzz as a Class 8 by a long way. So don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if someone else ends up owning it anytime soon.
I don't think that's an answer I would have ever expected out of somebody driving a Class 7. I suppose it might change when you get onto a proper race and a full grid. That it might change there, but yeah, it's a surprising answer. It's not one I expected. I thought you'd have been like, yeah, it handles a bit different. It's maybe a little bit heavier here and there, or whatever, or because it's a bigger engine, you've got more grunt off the line. But no, it's definitely not an answer I expected. But you are Class 8 through and through. You've been, as we say now, you've been doing this in Class 8 for a long time, which you may not like to be reminded of, but you have been at Class 8 since you left the juniors, and that's where your heart is, and that's where it remains, and nothing wrong with that. So yeah,
I don't think you can beat specials racing, to be honest. I feel like I've done it for so long now. Like I said to you when we just had a chat before this video, like this will be my 17th consecutive season in Class 8, and that makes me feel old, and I'm only 32 years old. But I just think I'm a specials racer, really. Like the Class 7 thing is an itch that needed scratching with the big single. But I don't see me ever stopping Class 8, but I also like to have a little dabble at something. I would quite like to have a little dabble at Class 9, to be honest.
Really?
But yeah. But not, again, I don't expect that to be really very permanent either. Like, so.
You've got a Duratec.
I'm just in a very fortunate. Well, yeah, that's what the Duratec is for originally. I'm very lucky and fortunate at the minute that I can have the 2 cars. That probably won't last very long as kids get older and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Class 8 will be. I can't see me stopping that anyway.
I think the ultimate benefit about a Class 8 is that it doesn't matter what weekend it is or what meeting is on. You can sort of get the Class 8 prepped and in the trailer or in the truck, whatever, and you can go somewhere and you know you're going to get some cars to race. This was always my downfall with Class 9, is because I loved racing every single weekend, but I'd go to a club meeting and there'd only be 2 other Class 9s. And you soon get fed up with just 3-car races. You want people to race against every weekend, because then you just feel like you're wasting your time in the car and you're burning it out. So, the fact that, I mean, yes, 7 you can do as well, but Class 8, you are pretty much guaranteed to go racing with some people every weekend. And I can understand why you enjoy the Class 8. And it's what you've been brought up with after the juniors, and I don't see why it should stop, because the class is ultra competitive. It's still one of the biggest at the major meetings, and you want to be part of that. So I don't see why that should change. So very quickly, this might be a harder question. Outside of the big 3 that you've achieved, Nationals, Baz, fastest man on grass, what would you say is your other proudest racing moment? Have you got one? Do you even know one? Is there something that you really enjoyed within your racing outside of those big 3 achievements?
That's a tricky one. I'll just say this then. If we're just talking about just race, it's not an achievement, right? But it's just something that I enjoy, right? It's just the whole going racing thing very often. So it's the whole almost like the traveling circus thing, doing loads of race meetings, all the prep time in the week, working on the cars in the week, and then traveling to the meetings. Like, I'm lucky I've got a supportive family, and like Emma and the kids go everywhere that I go, really. And just like, we do a lot of racing, really, and that whole that's just something I enjoy, is the whole scene, really. I guess what I'm getting at. It's a bit corny to say the people that are in that you go racing with, or that you race against, but just going racing week to week, and there's still that love for the grassroots of the sport. I have as much fun on a club day at Cambridge or Scunny or North Shropshire or Evesham or anywhere as I do at a big meeting.
Yeah, well, to be honest, because Bex is from that part of the world, we visited Spalding on the odd occasion for a club meeting, and you and the family was all there, supporting the club and supporting club racing. So it's great. It's great to see that your passion for the sport, yes, because your business is tied in with it, but generally your passion is still there. I mean, you could actually just stay in your workshop and at home building engines and doing stuff. You could decide, I'm not going to go racing, but you don't. You want to keep yourself in the car. You want to keep yourself on the track, and it's great that your passion is still there for the sport, which originally might not have been there because of how your original motorsport upbringing was, where it was just racing, well, not local, because Sturton wasn't the local track to you, but racing at 1 or 2 tracks and then going back home, and that was it. So no, I think it is great that you are committed to competing in the sport and being a part of it and enjoying all aspects of what it brings. So that's what I'm trying to say. I think you can't fault that because you are still keen to keep going, keep doing it, and hopefully any other success, if it comes your way, then I'm sure you'll gladly accept it. But you want to be part of it more than anything.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So obviously you are tied into the sport with your business and anything. Are there any other ambitions that you've maybe thought about within the sport? You say you would like to do a Class 9 if the chance comes about to do it. Is there anything else that you would like to see yourself doing, or are you happy just where you're at?
It's just my like the way that I am as a person, that I always want more, really. So I'm a bit of a stato, not as much as you. Not I don't no, I don't know. You know, I'm not as on it as you are, but I obviously know how many times Gerald Brace and people like that have won the nationals in Class 8, and being a massive Class 8 fan. If there would have been, I don't think anyone will match that in the modern age, but if there was a goal of mine, I still think if I'm young enough, I can win the nationals again, God willing, and I would love to be someone to even be considered in the same breath, really, as someone like Gerald Brace, who's won 6 national titles. So let's see, you know, that'd be like, it's a long way away at the minute, because really I've only got 1 Class 8 national title, but you know, I feel very fortunate to have that one, and you know, aim high, I guess. And if that was going to be a goal, it basically is just to be win more Class 8 national titles.
So basically, then you want it to be where in 10 years' time, people want to remember the success that you've had. If you're still there in 10 years, you decide you are still going for that length of time, and you've achieved. If you've achieved still just that one, or if you've achieved more, that is your goal, to be remembered within the sport. And yeah, I don't see why not. I think it's certainly capable from what you've done over the previous few years. I think you've definitely been at national level. You've probably been the strongest, consistent performer out there. And I hope for you it continues, and I hope you continue to enjoy trying to achieve that. So yeah, I think you've had a fascinating racing life up to now. As I say, it's gone in several different parts. We've had the quiet beginning, we've had the up and coming moment leading to frustration, and then we've had what can really happen when it all comes together. So I think you should feel very proud of all that. You understand that it is motorsport, and there's a few, in autograss terms, there's a few ruts and bumpy bends along the way, but you're certainly appreciative, and you've deserved every success that's come to you. That's all I can say, really.
Thank you very much. And yeah, it's racing, isn't it? You're not going to win them all, and but yeah, I feel like we're now things are going now how I've always wanted them to be. You know, we're quite regular. Like, the goal of when we go to any big meeting is to make the final, and it always has got to be that, and then go from there, really. And I feel like now we're in a position where we, like you said, consistently do that. And you know, I'm enjoying it. I just want it to carry on. I hope we get more battle rounds, more big meetings this year and going forward, and we can pick up where we left off, really, in 2019.
Good. Well, like I said, we all want racing to happen on a consistent basis. Hopefully, all clubs will get back up and running. I'm sure it doesn't need repeating too much, but really, we need members out there to support clubs. First off, by buying a license, that puts funds in the club. It helps them keep their venues. They've got rent to pay and all that, regardless of racing or not. They've still got outgoing. So it needs us to support the clubs, and hopefully they can put meetings on and we can go racing properly, and things will be back to how they should be. Yeah, I hope you look back and you reflect now after this, and yeah, you think, yeah, we've done all right, but we're hungry for more, and hopefully, like I keep saying, that will come your way. But I certainly look forward to seeing you back on the track and getting to talk about your racing again, because you've certainly provided some great moments for me to talk about. Hopefully there'll be some more. So we've gone through all this list of everything that I was going to ask you. So Dan Mackenzie, is there, in a way, is there anything that you would like to say to anybody who may watch this, other than obviously that you've got some spare space in your workshop for some more work?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, hopefully we can get back racing, and I'd look forward to seeing everyone when we do and getting back to some proper competitive, good, hard racing. And I want to say, keep up the good work, Russ. It's important for the sport to have Grasschat and someone like you. I think your passion for the sport is unrivaled, really. And I said to you before, you reach a lot wider audience than probably any of us really realise. And whether it be if you took it like sprint car racing in the States or stock car racing, or anyone, having a social media outlet is important. So keep up the good work, mate.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Really do. Sorry, one last question. Family, growing up, how many more years before you have to build a junior special?
But Daisy's 4 now, and Dougie's going to be 2 in April. And when he starts, I might have to stop because he is wild. Like he's absolutely feral, and I've just got a feeling that there's going to be a lot of work to be done on that junior special during the week, every single week. So that might be the end of my racing career.
You never know. Just for you, by the time that he's old enough to race, junior specials might be down the bike engine route, so that could come in handy.
Well, hopefully, yeah, hopefully. But I think he'll be bolting wishbones and suspension on every week for him, because he's crazy. But yeah, I think if Daisy's into it, then she'll be a bit more calculated, a bit more like I'd like to consider myself, a bit more of a thinker. But Dougie's just going to be like crash it, roll it, set it on fire, and walk away from it.
Well, no, we look forward to seeing what the future brings for yourself, for the family, and I hope the business continues strong. But yeah, we've got to it now. Dan Mackenzie, thank you so much for talking to us, taking the time out of your busy family and work life. As I have said before, I can't wait to see you back on a track. I'd like to see you in the 7 as well before you say, no, I've had enough of it. Hopefully that's true. But yeah, can't say more than that. So yeah, a big thank you. Yeah, just enjoy whatever comes your way next.
Thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I've enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Right, well, that completes another Grasschat. I've had an amazing time talking to Dan. We've known about each other since our junior days. He was slightly faster than me, despite not racing as much as me, but that's natural because he is now a top-tier racer, and yeah, he's earned every right to be there. So well done, Dan. Thank you for talking to us. This has been Grasschat number 14, I think, and we look forward to seeing the response to it, and I hope everybody enjoys it. So I'm Russ, this is Dan, and hopefully we'll see you on track soon, and we'll see everybody else soon as well. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.